in it, you know? Okay, got it.
Gotta record.
But yeah, Affirmations Apparel, the link is in my Facebook bio, or you can go to affirmationsapparel.shop. I love saying shop.
Yes. And
For other shirts.
and speaking of being a spiritual being, having a human experience, that really brings us into the topic that we're discussing, which is getting out of your own way. But it really boils down to your ego and allowing your ego to lead the way versus your higher self. And when you talk about the human experience, you cannot ignore the fact that your ego plays a huge role. So we'll be talking about that today. So once again, if you're joining, please let us know that you're here live. Join us in the comments. Please share this. We want to get this message out. We're here. It is our goal as spiritual coaches to make an impact in your life and the life of others, because we do believe in truly healing. But once again, we're talking about this ego. We're going to help you get that ego out of the way. Tell your ego to take several seats, but we don't want you to tell your ego to get to stepping, because you actually need your ego, and we're going to get to that. So we're going to get started right now with talking about what is the ego. So Dawn, tell me, what is the ego?
So the ego, there's many levels and layers to definitions, depending on what perspective you're looking at it from. Being a metaphysician, I look at it from that perspective and the spiritual aspect of it. And the ego is that part of you. Basically, you looking at a mirror image of yourself in the 3D, third dimension, who you are in this life. It's how you view yourself, how you view your beliefs, your feelings, it is a constructed part of you based on your life experience up to this point. It's your childhood, it's your childhood experience, it's adolescence, it's early adulthood, it's later or middle adulthood, all the way up until the day you transition from this life. It's who you are as you in this life. And what happens is a lot of people don't understand that relationship that you're supposed to have with the ego. And some people allow the ego to sit in the driver's seat of their lives. Right. And it takes them down the wrong route. It takes them down the wrong path. Because they don't have that relationship established between you and you. That little voice that's in the back of your head or the back of your mind and whispering in your ear that hoards worry, doubt, fear. That's all based on what you've experienced before today, before this moment. That's literally reminding you. It's reminding you, oh, be weary of this, be leery of that, you don't like that. You don't, that doesn't work out for you. That's the ego chirping to distract you from growing and moving forward.
Absolutely.
And the goal is to learn how to, first of all, establish the relationship and then control it, check it. Like you said, make it have several seats. When those things pop up, which they do, they're supposed to. When those things pop up, you're supposed to say, okay, I get that. It was a fear, but up until now, I'm not getting ready to allow that to take over this decision that I'm making to move forward in life. If you want to, start a new career after being in one career for maybe 10, 20, 30 years, the ego will tell you, you can't do that. Oh, that's crazy. Oh, you're too old. That's the relationship you have between you and you.
Yeah.
You're literally allowing your ego to get in the way of your destiny, of the direction you're supposed to grow into. That's what people say, get out of your way, get out of your own way. Oh, you're in your own way. That's the part of you that's in the way.
Yeah. And one thing you touched on is the fact that it boils down to, a thought process, our beliefs, our perceptions of ourselves. And with those beliefs, I want to touch on just how those beliefs come about, because, you mentioned childhood. We can go back to our childhood And I know that's something that I definitely do when it comes to that emotional healing, that healing of that pain and that trauma, is getting back to your childhood, because in your childhood, you make decisions about yourself based on your experiences, based on those painful experiences. Because let's face it, as a child, you don't know how to cope with things. You don't know how to deal with an adult telling you you're too loud, or your teacher or a counselor telling you that you're never going to be successful in life, or some kid in your school looking you dead in the face and telling you that you're ugly. You don't know how to cope with that. So your
Right.
child brain makes certain decisions in order to cope with that magnitude. And as an adult, someone can look at me now and say, "You're ugly." I'm like, "Oh, okay, you're not my
Right.
person." But, as a 5-year-old, I'm not going to feel that way. So you have to really understand your childhood brain and how it develops and how it processes things. And in that, we develop these beliefs that I call limiting beliefs. And it's within those limiting beliefs where our ego, the child of our ego, starts to really grow and form. And with that, because we are unaware of what's truly happening, we carry that with us. We carry those beliefs, we carry those feelings, because our thoughts create our feelings create our actions create our patterns of behavior play out in cycles over life. So then you're stuck in this cycle that you're truly unaware of. And with that, you're getting in your own way. So when it comes down to your ego, you really have to start checking your limiting beliefs. What are you believing about yourself? What are you believing about what you can do? What are you believing about, how far you can grow? And then even with those beliefs, you got to ask yourself, who told you that?
Right.
Who said those things? Like, a lot of times those thoughts aren't even yours.
Yeah, you
They've
adopt them.
come from other people and you've adapted them to yourself. So then, of course, you're really getting in your own way, because you're bringing in the thoughts and beliefs of other people into your life, holding you back. So let's talk about those limiting beliefs. What are some limiting beliefs? I know the first one that comes to my mind is self-doubt. What are some other limiting beliefs?
Oh my gosh, I try not to think about them, but you're not smart enough.
Mm.
You're too old, you're too young, you're inexperienced. It could be a variety of different things that someone has literally told you. Maybe you're not pretty enough, you're not tall enough. Um and limiting beliefs or limiting self-beliefs come from an experience of someone else's opinion.
Right.
Or maybe you just didn't succeed as well in a certain area. Let's just say you're a kid and you play softball, you play little league baseball, but your talent hasn't been developed yet.
Right.
Your talent has not gotten you where it is you believe you're supposed to be in that on the team. Maybe you don't hit the ball, maybe you don't run fast enough. You then start to believe you're not good enough.
Yeah.
But if you don't have that somebody on the side of you saying, "No, keep going, you've got this, it takes time," really painting that picture, drawing it out for a person and letting them know this is something that has to develop and grow within you if you truly want this to occur. And if you're a child and nobody's there, then the ego sees an opportunity.
Yes.
It sees an opportunity to come in and say, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna validate everything you're thinking right now. We're gonna maximize this because nobody's interfering to tell us anything else." So this is the thought and the belief that keeps growing and growing and growing, and then it shows up in adulthood. I'm not good enough for this. Why would anybody want to pick me for that? I'm not good enough to have this job. And it could have all started from that one experience that you had as a child, because there was not someone or a moment or anything that could tell you it's okay. Everybody doesn't get it right in the beginning. Everybody's not going to have it all figured out on day one. It's a process. It's also a process to dismantle the ego, because think of how long it took you to actually have that belief within yourself set in stone. It's locked in, like, nope, this is it. This is just how I function. This is my normal. You have to go back to where it started.
Absolutely.
You have to go back to where that first belief kicked in. And it could have come from, a source of rejection. It could have come from a source of abandonment. When it comes to the emotional wounds, you sit back and say, oh, maybe a parent abandoned you. Maybe a sibling abandoned you in a moment when you needed them. So then that belief now carries on where I'm not lovable. People don't stick around. Nobody's here to help me. I have to fend for myself, which is stressful enough. It really depends on where it started, because wherever that seed was planted, that's where we got to start digging.
Yes. And, just listening, it's like those limiting beliefs just really touch so many different aspects of your life. And, I'm going to always be sticking in this little shameless plug for our book, The Unchained Goddess. But when I wrote my chapter, it was about my big limiting belief that had always held me back up until recently. And actually, it was with writing that chapter that helped me really break through. And it was the fact that I felt unseen and unheard. And that's because for so long, I believe no one listens to me. Nobody believes me. No one respects my voice. No one, no one is going to take what I have to say seriously. And that was my limiting belief. And it impacted me in my relationships because I look back and I'm like, I think I probably missed out on some potentially good partners because I believed they wouldn't see me or they wouldn't think I'm a good partner. I missed out on some opportunities professionally with getting promotions because I believed, oh, if I step into this leadership position, people aren't going to listen. They're going to be like, she doesn't know what she's doing. I'm not going to listen to her. Let's get her up out of there. Even when it came to social events, I didn't go because I was like, I'm not really going to be seen. Or when it came to just stepping up with certain things and using my voice, no one's going to listen. But here I am now doing all of that. And it took me some time to really break through it. But when I got down to it, it was that limiting belief that was developed when I was a child. And it was around that limiting belief that impacted my, the other areas of my life, but also not just that limiting belief, but it creates a domino effect of other beliefs, because within that, then I start having self-doubt. I don't have confidence. I lack self-esteem, don't have self-worth. And that's just a whole tumble of other issues when it comes to your professional life, your relationships, your personal life. And I really want to start getting into the role of what it looks like when your ego is at that wheel, when your ego is driving, when your ego is making all those left turns, when you need to go right. A lot of times, and I know we as women are guilty of this, we have this timeline of our life, of our accomplishments. We need to finish school here. We need to get this degree. We need to be making this kind of money. I'm going to get married here. I'm going to have this many children. I'm going to have this type of husband. I'm going to have this type of relationship. This is what my life is going to look like. And you have this this picture already painted out, right? For a number of reasons. And a lot of times it's your ego that painted that picture, but then it's also that ego that gets in the way. And it's your ego that's holding on to that timeline of thinking that you have to be a certain way with certain accomplishments with this perfect picture in order for you to be validated and be valuable and be worthy. And I'm here to tell you, you need to let that timeline go, break it, because your validation comes from within and your worthiness is based on what you think about yourself. So Dawn, what are some ways that the ego does show up in our life?
Well, first of all, the ego is going to set you up for destruction every time.
Every time.
It's going to do that. Imagine, like we give the analogy of the ego driving your vehicle. Well, yeah, I ask people sometimes, how do you feel when someone else is driving your car? Like, literally place yourself in that position. If it's not your partner, who probably drives your car often, what if it's your friend or another relative? You feel a little bit uncomfortable. You're not completely at rest, at peace. It's your car. That's yours. But imagine them not telling you where you're going. There's no actual direction. There's no place. We're just gonna be in the car. We're just gonna drive around and waste gas. We're just gonna go to all these random places with no particular. It's not Sunday. We shouldn't. It's not a Sunday drive. No, this is life. And if you don't tackle and get control of the ego and say, no, this is what we're doing. We're going to do this, like this. We're not going to go in half-assed. We're not going to go in with fear. We're not going to go in with rejection issues. We're not going to go in thinking everybody's going to betray us and it's already, predestined for everybody to be our enemy. We're not going to go in like that. We may have had situations like that in the past, but that's not here today. It doesn't have to determine our now, and it definitely doesn't have to play out in our future. But when you get, and that's with the ego, we spoke about it, getting to the root of where it stems from is crucial. It is key. It is critical. Because once you get to that, we know when you get to the nucleus, you can go ahead and kill the whole germ. You can you can just destroy it. The goal is to neutralize it. We can say, oh, death of the ego. You're going to have many, many deaths of the ego because there's many, many parts of the ego that need to just balance out. Yes, we need those reminders of those memories as reference for what we should be looking for going forward. If you've been bitten by a snake before, you are a little bit more cautious when you recognize there's a snake in my area. There's a snake around here. I need to proceed with a certain level of caution. That's when the ego becomes useful. That's when we really need it, Yeah. But the goal is to not allow it to run the show. It doesn't need to run the operation. Because the ego is going to keep you in that comfort zone. It's going to keep you in that state of just saying, this is where we belong. And it's really not where you belong because you start to feel that level of discomfort, dis-ease. You start to feel frustrated. You get angry. It leads to depression. It leads to all those things because you're not taking control of that. You're allowing another entity within you that is not always on the up and up to take over.
Absolutely.
That's in the way of you and where it is you really, really want to go. What do you want to do? The ego, I won't say is malicious. The ego is very protective of you. It's kind of like you would think of it as being your bodyguard. We've been scarred here. We've been wounded here. We've seen, betrayal here. We've had these things happen to us. And it will keep you in victim mode for as long as possible because that's safety. My job is to keep you safe as your ego, but you have to fight that. I'm okay. I'm good. I can get past this. I've grown. I've healed this. I've learned lessons that are necessary from those battle bruises and wounds that I received. Thanks ego for taking those hits, but I got it from here. Yes. But it's the ego, like I said, is your friend and your foe.
Friend and foe. And I took some notes. There's a few notes that I want to touch on. I've got notes for days. So let me.
Yes, I got two of my notebooks right here.
Listen, if y'all only knew, we write our own books for our own selves.
Yes.
But I have something written here, just a few statements about the ego. And with this particular one, I wrote down, the ego wants to be seen as capable, but does not want to be told what to do or how to do things. And with that, this is why you cannot let your ego drive. You cannot let your ego take the wheel because your ego wants to be in that comfort zone. And as Dawn spoke on how, you have these feelings that are created, your comfort zone, it's your protection zone when it comes to certain situations, but that's not how you want to lead. And it just brings me to a video that I actually did the other day where I said, your feelings are not reality. Now, just to clarify that, I'm not saying your feelings aren't real, because your feelings are absolutely real, but they're not facts. They're not the truth of the situation. For example, if I'm in a situation and I deal with the fact that someone has betrayed me, I'm in a relationship, loving this person, I feel like I was blindly betrayed. Lots of pain, lots of trauma that comes from that. The feelings I experience from that particular situation are absolutely real. However, when I go out into this world, I cannot anticipate or expect that every single person I encounter is going to do the same thing to me and say that my feelings are the truth, that I've been hurt, so you're going to hurt me. That's not the truth. But that is your ego. That's your ego leading the way. That's your ego sitting in that driver's seat, and that, lean back like, oh no, we're not letting them in. And it's very hard for you to tell your ego what to do and say, you got to let them in. You can't let your ego in when your ego's like, no, we're not trying to get betrayed again. We're not trying to go down that road, but that road may not exist. So it's so important that you really check your feelings. And then the other thing, let's see, I know I have 3 tabs on the
So studious.
Hold on. Okay. And then your ego wants to maintain the status quo. So with that, your ego is establishing the status quo. So back to my example of being betrayed and everything. The status quo is, we're not going to get hurt. We're not going to trust. We're not going to allow people. We're not going to receive. We're going to put our blocks up, and your ego's going to maintain that. So once again, you can't tell your ego what to do. And you can't go through life thinking you can lead with your ego. So it's so important that you do take that wheel and stop letting your ego drive your own life. So, we've talked about some of the cons of having your ego, but Dawn, what are some of the pros of having your ego?
When you've actually gone through neutralizing or balancing or healing the ego, which is done primarily through like shadow work, spiritual journeys, of course, incorporate shadow work. And that's really getting to the heart. That is where does this come from? What is this? Why do I do these things? Why do I react and respond to others and situations like this? When you get to that place of being the conductor and not letting the ego conduct everything within your life, you use that part of you to establish boundaries, and the ego assists in sticking with them, holding them up. The ego also holds you accountable when you don't hold those boundaries up. You feel the feeling like you're betraying the ego at that point. It feels like, I shouldn't have done it. You're right. You shouldn't have done that. You defaulted on the new contract. Like, this is a whole new contract we have. But the ego literally is your confidence. It can be, if it's not healed, it can be your weakness. If it is healed, it's your confidence. It's still you in this life. It's still you. It's just you've gone through the process of healing and becoming, by unbecoming the old version of you in the ego form. And you're allowing for the true you, your true self, to come in and partner up. It's a team effort. There's many layers to us, but when the ones I focus on are your higher self, your true self, the ego, and I like your shadow. That's the darker sides of you, where your mind can go. Some people allow that part, but that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
But when you in ego, you in 3D, you as a person, as a human being, can say, okay, I want my true self to come through. Your true self is who you were or who you are, but who you were before the ego started racking up all these negative points, started getting all these tallies of this happened to me, that happened, they said this happened, this occurred, and all these bad experiences. But when you can get back to that person that you were intended to be and the ego is in full cooperation, that's power. That's allowing your experiences to be your power. I've regained that. Everything, every little piece of you that was being chipped away over time, all the years before you started your healing process, all the things that were breaking you down and trying to burn you and bruise you, you now use that as your fuel. That's your power, because you are not going to let it happen again. It's the ego will remind you, because it's part of your past. This happened, okay, it's never happening again. It's a fierceness that comes upon you rather than remaining a victim of circumstance, of situation. So the ego will become your best friend, because it will tell you, we're not about to do that. We're not about to go there. We're not about to let them talk to us like that. That's commanding your respect. That's letting people know I'm in the room without feeling like you're being judged, you're being criticized, you're being looked at, in a certain way, other than you see me, take it or leave it. But, growing up, you hear the word ego and you think it's somebody who's really full of themselves, somebody who, oh, they're overconfident, you have a big ego. It is that fine little line where you could be overdoing it with your ego, and that could be a result of insecurity. And then it could be looked upon as you're very, very confident. Your ego is in check. You have it under control. It's not running the show for you. And if you get to that place of, but that comes from knowing who you are. When you know who you are, the ego can only surrender to you.
Absolutely. And I think that is so important. And I always use my story as example, because I just fit into these discussions so well when I look at, how I've evolved over time. And one of my biggest gaps was I lacked self-identity. I didn't know who I was. And because of that, it allowed that ego to come in. It allowed that ego to take those seats. And it's so important that you do that inner healing work, do that shadow work to really understand who you are as an individual, not who someone has told you you are, not who you think you're supposed to be, or not who you need to be in order to fit in, but who you truly are. And this is why not only that inner healing work, but like that shadow work is so important. And I do want to touch on what shadow work is, because a lot of people hear shadow work, they're thinking, oh my God, that's dark
It
witchcraft,
is dark.
whatever. It's not.
it
Okay.
is dark, but it's
Yes.
facing your darkness.
Is the dark side of you. And I want you to think, and I always use the yin yang symbol as an example, because a lot of people can visualize that. We're familiar with it. You have the white side, you have the black side. So you have the light, you have the dark. A lot of people want to go through life and only focus on the light. They want to focus on what they're good at, what they do well, what people like about them, their passions, their purpose. And although that's great, you have to look at that darker side. And it's in that darker side where you really start to understand who you are. That's where you truly start to become your most authentic self, because not only are you examining that darker side, you're addressing that darker side, and then you're accepting that darker side as part of you, because that's just who you are. And that's where that balance comes in. And when you're able to accept that darker side and actually, process those things, nobody can come into your life and step on you. Nobody can push you around. Nobody can touch you. And that's where you're able to form the healthy boundaries, the right boundaries that you truly need. But you have to do that shadow work. You have to get to that dark side, and you have to accept you as a whole. So you're that whole yin yang symbol, not just the white side walking around with the little black dot, just this. So you have to do that.
So
And
true.
within that, I think what we can talk about shadow for, I mean, we could have a whole series, so
Yeah.
we'll
Yeah.
get deep into that. But there is one aspect of the shadow that I do want to talk about that a lot of people deal with, and that is fear, that
Mm,
fear mindset. And my acronym that I use for fear is false emotions appearing real. And I
yeah.
say that because a lot of times it's our emotions. Now, the
Yeah.
emotion of fear is real. I don't even know. Is fear an emotion? I can't remember. But
Fear, I would put fear as, well, afraid, terrified, as I I put fear on the spectrum. Fear is on one end, love is on the other.
yes.
Because since the beginning of quote unquote time, that has been the ongoing battle,
Yep.
fear and love.
Mhm.
And fear, when getting back to just touching on the shadow work, that's literally having the courage and the will to look fear in the face
Mhm.
and say, I'm taking you on.
Mhm.
Because I don't know, maybe I misinterpreted when JFK said it, or who said it, was it JFK or was it Roosevelt said there's nothing to fear but fear itself. I don't remember,
Oh,
but
can't tell you.
to be afraid of fear or to fear
Mhm.
fear means you're not willing to move past it, because everything you want, the way you want to live, the way you want to be, the person you want to become is on the other side of fear.
Mhm.
But you have to have enough love for yourself, because that's where the stamina comes in. That's where the determination comes in. Meaning that, yeah, this is scary. The process is scary. The thought of it is scary. It's terrifying at times. But what I want, and the strength and power and love that I have inside of me is going to defeat that. It's going to get past that. It's going to be my armor. And a lot of people don't know that looking all of your darkness in the face, being able to dissect it, and then once you've gotten past the processing part, falling in love with that part of you.
Yes.
How do you not love? You can say all day and stuff, all day long, I love myself, but do you love every aspect of you?
Right.
Do you love that part of you that when you get infuriated, do
Yeah.
you love what, not so much what you do when you get infuriated or pissed, angry, just when you hit 10?
Yeah.
Do you still love yourself in those moments? And that would be solely based on what you do within those moments when you're in that state.
Mhm.
If you're mad at yourself for what you did after the fact, if you're mad at what you said to someone because you know you can't take it back, are you still okay with that? Are you okay with the outcome that you produced when you're in these negative spaces and things like that? That's a learned thing that a lot of people will never do. Oh, I just lost control. No, that's because you're not in control.
Mhm.
If you lose control, were you ever really truly in control?
Mhm. Mhm.
Because there's levels that you can get to and you just say, okay. And my new thing, I was just telling my mom this, I said, my new saying is, I don't have the temperament for this. I don't have the temperament for it. People will hear me say that all the, I don't have the temperament for this. I'm gonna
Yes.
walk away, because that's
Because you
control.
know. Yeah.
It's just like,
You know.
I'm not gonna do
Mhm.
it. Nope, not today. Nope, I'm not. Because it's a matter of, do I really want this to be unleashed?
Mhm.
Do I really
Mhm.
want to put myself energetically on that frequency? Is it actually going to do any good?
Right.
Is it going to be harmful to another person?
Absolutely.
Because what's done to one is done to the whole. So if I'm hurting you or that person, I'm hurting myself at the end of the day. Because guess what? When I go home and everything's settled down, the dust is settled, all the tension has come down, I got to sit with myself on that,
Yeah. Yeah.
if there's no other consequences.
Mhm.
So that's being completely in love with every aspect of you. Am I okay without, I'm not good in these particular areas? You know me and technology, we have a thing. We have a thing. And
I
I'll be
got
like, I'm not good at this, but I love that part of me because I can make a joke out of it.
Yeah.
Everybody else might not be great at everything. You
Mhm.
know, if you are, you're not real.
Absolutely.
But
And that's
can you literally be okay and fall in love with every part of you, even the parts that you want to change? Change
mhm.
them, make new decisions, tweak a couple things. But the goal is to discover who you are, every single aspect, as much as you can in this life, and fall in love with that. Because guess what? You've been given an opportunity to live this life. You weren't taken away in the night. You weren't, your life was not cut short. If you're still here, you have another opportunity to maximize this day that's going to continue maximizing your entire life.
Mhm. And I want to touch on, there's so many things you've touched on. So number one, this is why I truly believe inner healing work combined with shadow work, as well as inner child work, is so important, because you have to accept and love yourself. Even before you say, I want to change this part of myself, you have to be able to accept that part of yourself so you know exactly what needs to be changed. Because there's some parts of you that may not need to be changed. For example, like, there's certain things that's going to hit your red button. Well, maybe those certain things don't need to be in your life. And that red button is there for you to say, you know what? If I deal with this type of person right here, this person who's disrespectful, this person who talks to me out the side of their neck, I'm going to go off every
Yep.
time. That's when you say, I don't want to change that part of me, but I'm just going to change who I allow in my life. Because we
Right.
always don't need to change who we are. We need to accept who we are and then make different changes at different levels.
Yes.
There's a part of me I do need to change. I'm impatient. I say that all the time. So I work on that, but I'm not going to change the fact I'm going to go off on a toxic person. you know, so
With
you
class
have to
and
be
grace.
able, you said what?
With class and grace.
Exactly. I will go
Yeah,
off and with
just
no
because we healed.
regrets.
Yeah, just because we healed don't mean we won't go off. We'll just do it strategically.
Exactly. And then it's like, yeah, I did it, and I'm gonna write it down. I'm gonna tell you exactly what I said. And if they said that I said what I said, I'm gonna be like, they are absolutely right, because
I
I
confirm.
did it and
I
I'm not
concur. Yes.
changing it. And that's the other thing, is being able to live your life with no regrets. And that also comes in truly accepting yourself and knowing your capabilities, knowing your limits, knowing your desires. Because for me, I desire a peaceful life, which means that those things that I allow in my life have to align with that, which means no toxic people who push my red button. But that's why the inner healing work, the shadow work, and the inner child work is so important, and it's a very complex healing process if you don't know how to do it, which is why it's so important that you have that support. And once again, for those of you who are just joining, Dawn and I are both coaches. We're heart-centered spiritual coaches. We have different aspects of our coaching, but we do believe in supporting you so you can heal. If not us, if you know that you need some help and you reach out to either one of us, if we can't help you, we have resources of other people, because at the end of the day, it's not about us, it's about healing people. So please reach out. And then for those of you who are just joining, please let us know if you're here live, if you're here on the replay. Ask questions. This is not a Paula and Dawn show, because
No.
it very well could
we
be. We
have it.
don't want it
We
to
have
be
ours
that.
every week.
Yeah, we save that for when we get on the phone. But I want to circle back around to fear, because a lot of times people just get so confused with fear. And we were talking about, fear is a natural response that we have. When you start getting into the brain center, there is a fear that exists, and that comes from, back when we first started inhabiting this earth and we had to save our lives from being chased by some beast. We needed to run and hide. You really aren't in those situations anymore. You still have that fear, that fear center in your brain, but you're not really in those situations. And I'm bringing this up because I want you to utilize this technique when you are feeling fear. When you know you're faced with something, you're feeling this fear, and it could be something like walking in a room full of people. You have to ask yourself, is there a lion chasing me? If I walk in, will I get bit? Will I get ate? Will I get killed? And if you say no to those questions or any other questions about you just being dragged, injured, taken away, then you have to start recognizing that your fear is false. It's your false emotion. You're creating it and you're allowing it to lead. And this is your ego taking the wheel because something in your life in the past happened that created this fear. And it's time for you to say to the ego, it's like, yeah, we're feeling a little fear. Go ahead and move over, let me drive. And then the other thing I want you to realize is when it comes to fear, when you're able to step through that door, or whatever it is that you're scared of, you automatically experience growth. You automatically start to evolve because you're at that next step. And then you can look back and say, that wasn't so bad. And, you know, I'm around a lot of youth athletes. My daughters are athletes. They play multiple sports. Their friends are athletes. And I really try to get in their head because they'll psych themselves out when it comes to fear. But I was saying to my daughter the other day, you know, she had 2 situations this year. You know, she's in middle school, you know, first year. But she had 2 situations where she had fear come up and it was really rocking her. And I was able to point back to her and say, hey, remember when you had those situations? She was like, yeah. I said, you know, you went through it. So when you look back now, what do you think? What do you think about your fear? And she was like, yeah, it was too much. And a lot of times that's what happens. We bring our fear to these high levels to the point where it seems like it's tangible, where you could take a sword and cut through it. But the reality is it's like a mist cloud, you know, it's going to dissipate. It's going to disperse once you step through. And I want you to always remember that and use that as your strength for fighting fear. Use that as your strength for moving forward, because you've got to overcome your fear mindset in order to live your life. But then once again, this goes back to you truly doing the work to know yourself, to understand your fear, where it's coming from, how it's impacting your life, how your fear and your ego are going hand in hand and driving off into what you think is a sunset, but it's that desert, it's that hologram,
It's
it doesn't exist.
It's
You know?
a cliff.
Exactly, it's a cliff. You're going to drive off the cliff. You're going to hit the end of the road. So we've talked about, you know, what the ego is, how it's formed, what role does the ego play, the pros of the ego, the cons of the ego, how it shows up in your life. We even brought in, you know, the fear mindset. So how do we work on creating that balance so that we can walk hand in hand with our ego, because our ego truly is there to protect us if we put the ego in its right place. If we don't have it in its right place, it's going to, you know, like you said, drive us off a cliff. So how do we create that balance?
Yeah, it thinks it's protecting you based on what it knows, based on what it's trained to do. That's a very good question. It's the how. First of all, self-awareness is the first step to everything. What are you afraid of? What are your fears? A lot of people won't identify them. They'll just keep rocking with them because that's their normal. That's just what they're used to. They don't even realize that this is a fear. I'm afraid of. There's people that are afraid of winning. They're afraid of the attention that comes with winning. Why? I don't like a lot of attention. Well, why not?
Mm-hmm.
You know, if there's a sense of overwhelm when it comes to something good happening, that's a fear.
Yeah.
You literally, there's something embedded within you that's saying that's not good when it's really great.
Mm-hmm.
Are you unsure if you can handle it? Do you feel unworthy of it? Does the idea of people looking at you make you feel some type of way because you're insecure about who you are?
And I want to interrupt you for just a moment, because with what Dawn is saying, is speaking to you entrepreneurs.
Mhm.
Dawn and I both are entrepreneurs, and we've worked through this very mindset. So if you are an entrepreneur, I really want you to listen, because your inner work will transfer over to your business. If you don't
Yes.
do your inner work, it's going to show up in your business. Carry on,
Yes.
Dawn.
Yes. It's what they call imposter syndrome, when you don't really
Yes.
believe. I mean, we've gone through that. We've literally said, am I really doing this? Is this who I am? Am I good enough to do this? Is anybody going to figure out I don't know what I'm doing? Everybody doesn't know what they're doing.
Right.
You're just literally going with a flow of something that feels good. You're diving in, and especially if there's passion and enthusiasm at its base, all that's the wind and your wings together,
Right.
and all you can do is fly. You can't fall. But that's where insecurity, confidence needs to be built in that, knowing who you are, learning who you are. Self-awareness leads to self-exploration, self-discovery, meaning that you're really navigating through you,
Mhm.
mind, body, and spirit. It could be that's the thing about self-mastery. You literally have to learn how to master yourself by going through all of these channels of learning what you do, first of all, how you do it, why you do it, how you can tweak it if you need to, how to navigate through any and all situations that present themselves throughout life, both good and bad, and say, I am the master of me. I'm in control of this show. I'm the star. This is my life. I'm the star. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give people their parts. It's all improv. I'm going to give people their parts. And as long as they're playing a role in my life, they're going to be of some benefit, whether it be just friendship, whether it just be a positive person that I have in my life to talk to, whether it be somebody that can help teach me about money, teach me about all these things. You just have to say, you give the yes and the no for everything that occurs in your life.
Mhm.
And if you don't, you're still allowing other people, other entities, other things control you. You're disempowering yourself if you don't get a hold of the ego, if you don't learn why your ego is the way that it is.
Mhm.
Why do I do these things? Where did it come from? How did it happen? When did it happen?
Right.
And once you start tackling that through self-awareness, because there's a lot of people that's just walking through life, just doing life and not really experiencing life.
Mhm. Mhm.
You know, living and being alive are two different things.
Right.
You can have a pulse and a heartbeat, but are you really maximizing and experiencing this thing that you've been blessed with every single day that you wake up? Or are you on that hamster wheel program? I had a thought earlier, and I hope I can remember exactly what it was. I said, there's people who say, I'm going to go through my journey. I'm going to go heal. I'm going to make myself better. I'm going to do self-love. I'm going to fall in love with myself, right? Because they've gotten off the hamster wheel.
Right.
But let those challenges present themselves that challenge the ego. They literally run back to the hamster wheel.
Absolutely.
Like when have you ever seen a hamster or a mouse run back to the hamster wheel after they've experienced freedom? They're just gonna keep going because
Just
they
run.
hold no limitations within their mindset. They're like, wait a minute, there's more room. Let me go see what I can see.
Mhm.
But that's the symptom of fear.
Yes.
And the ego is fear-based and is going to try to survive by any means necessary. No, we can't do that. We shouldn't do that. That's going to hurt. Oh my gosh, no. And when they start to feel the feelings of what we would call maybe pain, or what we would consider to be discomfort, as we're going through the process of healing and learning how to neutralize the ego and gain control of it, the wound that the ego has been holding on to for so long and using is now you're reminding your body, your emotions, your feelings, you're reminding it of what it felt like, what it actually feels like. oh my God, I'm reliving it. Well, you have to relive it to understand it and to see what decision you made in that experience, because that's all a belief becomes. It's just a decision you make within an experience and you stuck with it. So now you believe, if I go ahead and try to get into a relationship, I'm going to get my heart broken.
Right.
Instead of saying, you know what, it is possible I could get my heart broken, but I do desire to have a partner, a relationship, companionship. I desire that much more. So I'm going to go ahead and you know, the only thing that can really happen is disappointment that this wasn't the one. That's really an example of how you should face anything. You know, I'm going to go ahead and try this job. It seems like it's a good idea. There's room for growth. There's a lot of pros, very little cons. Let's just see how it goes, instead of saying, oh no, I'm not doing that. I'm too old for that, or I don't like that company, or I don't want to do that job. They ask too much. That's crazy talk.
Yeah.
But there's something underneath that. When you pull the blanket back, you say, oh, that's why. You may be afraid to learn something new. You may feel uncomfortable because it's a new environment. You may feel like you might not learn the policies, procedures, and operations well enough to be able to do a good job to keep the job. It could be all kinds of things. But that is the example of the ego in control. Ego begins to disintegrate when faith comes in, when belief gets established, self-belief. When you make the decision to say, I'm going to look at this life from a totally different angle.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm not going to look at it what's right in front of me, behind me, or side to side, because it's not working in my favor. I can literally look at it now from the inside. How does that make me feel? Do you feel negative emotions and feelings about it? It's time to change it.
Yeah.
It's time to change it. And then when you, this is one of my new examples of how I explain 3D, 4D, 5D. That's on another level. 3D, of course, like I just said, is everything around you in front and the back, right? Past, present, future. But when you really look inside, you really get an opportunity to reflect on where you are in this moment. And it also gives you an opportunity to decide where you want to be. Where do you want to go? What do you want to experience? What do you want to have? Okay, well, I'm not getting that here. So obviously I gotta make a move some kind of way, right?
Right.
So then you may want to raise up to a higher level so you can look at the full picture and see what can be changed. What can be tweaked? Where can I make maneuvers and new choices to get to the life that I really want to live? And that is the work. Yeah. That's the work that a lot of people are terrified to go through. I've had people say, I'm not ready to do that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, don't call me when you're still complaining about the life that you've chosen not to alter.
Yeah.
Not to change. Because I'm in the life-changing industry. I'm in the life-changing building and growing and getting to your truth. And if you are not ready to do that, then we have nothing to talk about.
Right.
Because that's life. Life is about growing. Life is about expanding. Life is about becoming more. Because what? We've been growing since the moment we were conceived. And human beings are the ones that literally stop their growth on purpose.
Yes, we get in our own way.
Get in your own way. So I remember, I think I told you about this. I didn't know for the longest that I didn't know how to get out of my own way.
So many people don't.
That's that phrase, get out of your own way. My mama said that to me so many times. Get out of your way. Get out of the way. Get out of the way. I sat back one day and I said, but nobody's telling me how. How do you do that? And I made it my mission to figure it out. Somebody else needs this information. I'm gonna figure it out for myself, and then I'm gonna just share the wealth. I'm gonna just share it. If you don't know how you're in the way of yourself, there's no way you're going to be able to move yourself out of the way of yourself. How are you? Are you self-sabotaging?
Oh,
Are you
yes.
are you continuously reinforcing those negative self-beliefs, those limiting self-beliefs? Are you literally telling people that your stock is less than what it really should be? And you want it to be, but you're selling yourself down here. We just had that conversation. What is your price point? What is your value? Are you literally bringing it down here? Are you just saying, nope, I'm up here
Yeah.
in a healthy way, not an egotistical, in a healthy way? Say, no, this is my value. This is what I'm worth. This is what you're gonna give me, whether it be monetarily, whether it be emotionally, energetically. It's
Absolutely.
what you're gonna give me. And if it's not the right currency, the flow, the current, if it's not the right currency, then we don't have anything to discuss.
It's not in alignment.
And that's key. Getting into alignment. Oh my gosh, that's a whole nother thing.
We're gonna have a whole other conversation, y'all. So when we say a whole other, it's gonna happen.
A whole other. Yes.
But I do want to touch on, I've been taking my little notes here. Let me see, where should I start first?
Wherever you
So
want.
one thing, so let's talk about self-sabotage, right? Because I watch people sabotage a lot. I mean, I'll sit and just, be in casual conversation with people and they'll make a comment and I'm like, oh my God, are you serious? Like you realize you're just cutting yourself off at the knee.
Yep.
So you can't walk, you can't move forward. And one key phrase that I hear people say, and they think, it's a safety net, it's a safety zone, but it's really self-sabotage because it's connected to fears, connected to limiting beliefs, it's connected to that ego, is playing it safe.
Oof.
And when you walk through life playing it safe, you're allowing your ego to come in. You're allowing that fear to take over. You're allowing yourself to be limited. And with that, Dawn, you used the word allowing.
Mhm.
You're allowing yourself to be held back. So this is an example of how you get in your way with self-sabotage. Other ways that you self-sabotage. And sometimes you're unaware of it. And I'm just going to touch in on the relationship side because, I work with people who've gone through the toxic relationships, unhealthy relationships, and we break those patterns. But the self-sabotage is when you're letting those old wounds come in and prevent you from experiencing that healthy relationship. And it could be, like you mentioned earlier, the abandonment wounds. Or for those people, let's talk about attachment styles. Let me go off a little left. You have 4 attachment styles. You have anxious attachment, avoidant attachment, fearful avoidant, and secure. And the goal is to get to secure. But I want to talk about those people who have those avoidant attachment styles. These are people who avoid getting into relationships, avoid being vulnerable, avoid, taking a chance. And what happens is you're playing it safe and you're self-sabotaging. And using that example, we can turn that into, your professional life. You're playing it safe. Well, I'm just not going to apply. I'm not going to step into this zone. In your personal life, same thing. Think about how you play it safe. I've heard people say, what is it? They're looking at an opportunity, and it may be like on social media, or there's all these reviews, and it's like 20 good things that are being said. You get that one person who says, oh no, my experience was bad. And they're like, oh no, that one person said it's bad. And that's you playing it safe.
Yeah.
And going back into the allowing, and I hope I'm not all over the place, but then with the allowing is you're not allowing yourself to grow, but you're allowing fear and you're allowing self-sabotage and you're allowing limited beliefs to come in and get in your way. And when it comes to overcoming that, we've talked about inner child work, shadow work, inner healing. And you mentioned the hamster wheel. You get off the hamster wheel thinking, I'm good. And then, your ego is challenged. That fear comes up and you jump back on that hamster wheel. You have to have the strategies in place. in order to move through that resistance. That's the resistance that's going to keep you stuck. That's the
Yeah.
resistance from your ego that's very strong because it's been in place for a long time. But you have to have the important strategies. And that comes in with building your self-worth, building your self-esteem, your confidence, setting those healthy boundaries. And once again, roll it back to, knowing yourself and knowing who you are and doing that shadow work, doing that inner healing work. And with that, of course, you change your perception, not only of yourself, but of certain situations. But so I'm just touching on a variety of things, but the last thing I want to touch on from my notes, and I want you to expand on this. You talked about those people who come to you, they're like, I'm not ready to do that. Or you have people who say, okay, I'm a heal. And then you give them, something to do and they don't do it. And they come up with all kinds of reasons why they aren't doing it. Or, what's another example? You have people who, I've had people who say they want to work with me and then they straight up ghosted me, or I've been blocked. Someone blocked me the other day.
I got blocked. I got blocked before. And
All
I
you
didn't
had
even
to
do
do was
anything.
say no. Like, I understand, but I recognize it wasn't me.
Right.
It was them in their resistance. But what I realized when it comes to that is people are blinded and then they choose to stay blinded. They choose to wear this veil. They
Yeah.
choose not to see. They don't want to put the glasses on to get their clarity. They don't want to turn the page. They don't want to walk out of their messy closet. They
Yeah.
don't want to move. And there are people who are listening who I'm talking to. You're that person who has that very strong resistance to where you may say yes, but you find every reason not to move forward, or you just straight up say no. And there's a few people I really want to tag, but I'm not going to put you out there like that. So why
I've
does
definitely had that.
somebody avoid removing that veil?
Well, it gets back to the ego. It gets back to their place of comfort, their place of familiarity, their place of, I can navigate here. I know the ins and outs. It's like, if you've lived in the same place your whole life, you become comfortable.
Right.
You may go through several neighbors. You may go through certain neighborhood changes. You may not like all of those neighbors and those changes, but it's not them, it's you, but you want to blame it on other people for the reason you don't like something or something's not going your way. It's just that space of I'm in control here and there's no surprises.
Mhm.
It's also, which should have been the number one thing that I said, they don't know who they'll be on the other side of their journey.
That transformation.
That transformation is no joke. Absolutely no joke. It's the fear of the unknown, which is pretty much across the board with anything. But when you've reached that level of fed up with the life that you're living, you will do any and everything necessary to continue moving forward, to continue growing. You'll do that. You'll make it, it'll be an obsession. Like, oh my gosh, I don't want this anymore. And when people come to me and say, I want to work with you, okay, let me ask you a couple questions. I can definitely at this point tell when someone's not yet ready.
Absolutely.
Because number one, they might talk too much and not be ready to listen.
Yeah. Yes.
Number two, they still have all their excuses.
Yeah.
The excuses are not reasons. There's difference between the excuses and reasons. Reasons that a person might not want to evolve would be, I've been afraid. I'm terrified. That's being honest. I don't know what to do. That's the reason I haven't moved from this space.
Yeah.
I haven't felt supported by anyone to show me and guide me or let me know I'm doing the right thing. I was doubtful that I even could do this. An excuse is, I'm sick and tired of people, you know, coming into my space when they don't realize they're attracting every single person experience. They're still in victimhood, meaning they're blaming everything on everybody and everything else.
Mhm.
They're doing it because nowadays it's a fad
Yeah.
or becoming a fad.
Mhm.
I'm going through my spiritual journey. Yeah, okay. And you still look all bright and bushy tailed
Yes, because your spiritual journey is not,
every
it's
No.
very challenging. It's very challenging. I mean, tears, I mean, the
Gut
ugly
twisting.
emotions.
It just feels like your insides are being metamorphosized and just your brain is it's indescribable. I'm not even gonna try to put it in words. I'm just not gonna try to because I'm more than sure that everybody else's experience is totally different than what ours would be individually and so on and so forth.
Mhm.
But I will say it's not sunshine and roses the way people think it should be.
It's not.
Like I stated before, it's literally you going through your darkness.
Mhm.
Everything that is dark in your life, in your spirit, in your soul, you are literally facing that from this life, the past life, so on and so forth. You have to face that head on. The message is in there. You have to go through that dark to get to the light.
Absolutely.
But you stated before, a lot of people, they don't want to take the blinders off. They don't want to take the shades off. They don't want to do that because they're terrified of the light.
Mhm.
They're absolutely scared of what's on the other side. And I'm telling you, on the other side, that's what you're looking for.
That's where
That's
the
what
light
you
is.
need. That's the I made it.
Mhm.
That's the reward is getting there because you've left all that back there and you dealt with it. You became
Yes.
okay with it. You've gone through forgiveness. That's the biggest thing. We want to hold on to those negative spaces we have reserved for people because some kind of way it makes you feel empowered, but it's really empowering the ego.
Absolutely.
It's not empowering your true self. The true self is on a higher frequency and cannot function if you have this emotional negative weight that you're carrying with you. What's wrong with you? It's not, you can't fly if you have something heavy weighing down your wings. It can't happen. I forgot your initial question.
Well, you answered it.
I
Why
did.
people don't. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
they just don't do it. They won't.
Yeah.
And I tell people, when you're ready. And I mean this because it happens, and it
You
happened
do.
to me. You know when you're ready, when your soul is screaming out to the cosmos for something. You
Mhm.
don't know what it is. You're not attached to what it is. You just want whatever it is that's going on in here. I want it gone.
Yeah.
I want
And
it
I think
gone because I'm over it.
I brought that up to you the other day. You know, we get up and we coach each other a little bit, but I was just like, when are some people just going to be tired of their BS? Because really and that's what it boils down to is you just getting tired of doing the same thing, being stuck in the same place
Yeah.
over and over and over and over. And I know for me, I was just sick and tired of being stuck. I was sick and tired of the same patterns, sick and tired of the same people, sick and tired of the same experience. And I knew I deserved better. I
Yeah.
knew there was more for me and I wanted it.
Yeah.
And I am going after it. But in order for me to make that happen, I got to clear that space. I got to clear
Mhm.
things out of the way. You know, I always use the metaphor of a closet that's filled with a bunch of junk. You got to clear that junk out before
Yeah.
you move new stuff in because it won't fit, or it's
It
just going to
won't fit
get
and you
all
don't know what
caught
you
up with the
have in
junk.
there.
Yeah, or all the dust that's all up in there is just going to fall on the new stuff. So you got to get rid of it. And it's like, my question to you, I mean, I asked Dawn on Sunday through frustration, but I'm gonna ask you all, if you are stuck, if you are going through the motions. If you're on your own hamster wheel, I'm gonna ask you this, but don't answer me. I want you to take this question, look yourself in the mirror and ask yourself this. When are you going to get tired? Because you can make a choice. It's not about just waiting for yourself to get tired. It's not about waiting for the right time. It's about making that conscious decision to want better for yourself, to want better for your life, to want better for your future. If you have children, you want to be able to display a better life so they can understand what that's like, or for anyone that surrounds you. But at the end of the day, it's about you. So when are you going to make that change? So look yourself in the eyes in the mirror and ask yourself this. But I do want to touch on control versus change, because it is about making a change, but it's about you releasing control. So if you're someone who feels like you have to be in control because maybe you were in a situation where you didn't have control. And I know I was in that situation. I was in that toxic relationship where I didn't know how things were going to go. I didn't know how the day was going to end. I didn't know, like, I knew like certain questions were trigger points where once that question was asked, we was going to go down a whole road of conflict and there was nothing I could do. No matter how much I tried, there was nothing I can do. And at the end of the day, I had no control. So when I left that situation, I controlled everything.
Yeah.
I had control and things went quote unquote well, quote unquote, to my timeline until they didn't. And I realized I was stuck. I was unhappy. I had certain things in control, but because I was in so much control, I was overwhelmed. I was tired. I couldn't rest. I mean, when I say rest, I couldn't sit back and just have the space to even think.
Nope.
I had to release that control in order for change to come in, because you can't be in control and think your life is going to change.
No.
Because when you go through that spiritual awakening, when you go through that healing, when you go down that journey, let me tell you, things you didn't realize that needed to change. When Dawn said you learn so much about yourself, you learn things you never thought, things you just never comprehended. You start experiencing change within that. And that is where you start becoming your most authentic self, becoming that evolved person of yourself, having that true experience to really start living your dream life, living your abundant life. But you have to release that control in order to experience change, because you can't have both, just like you can't have fear and love at the same time.
They
And
cannot.
this is why that inner healing and having that process and having those strategies in place is so important, because you have to be able to have that awareness, number one, about when you're getting in your own way, when you're holding yourself back. And then number two, being able to know what to do. And then number three, knowing what part of you is in the way, because like I had said before, there's some things you need to change, and there are some things you absolutely don't need to change. You need to strengthen, perfect, tweak maybe, but you don't need to change.
You don't need to change them. Yeah. That control factor is the ego as well, especially if you're coming off of something that happened traumatic or you just simply didn't agree with. The ego is where the control factor comes in, because your higher self understands and knows the value of the art of allowing.
Yeah.
Because, number one thing I always say, what do you want? What is it that you want out of this life? Don't consider anything, getting in the way, money, time, obstacles, all that. Don't factor that in. What do you want? And when you make that declaration of what it is that you want to attract in your life, God, the universe, the cosmos, whatever you want to call it, it's already saying, okay, cool, it's packaging up. Same way you would order something through Amazon.
Right.
Only difference is you don't get a delivery date. Not gonna tell you when it's coming. That's up to you. How fast can you get into alignment with this thing you want? How fast can you get into alignment? Not controlling the narrative. The only thing you're supposed to do is go with the flow of what we present in front of you, because what we're presenting in front of you is what's in the way of that flow, what's blocking it. These things are blocking it. It could be the fears, it could be the doubts, it could be the insecurities, it could be, oh, I got this much trauma that I have to heal through. Yes, you have to do that. You have to be willing to do it. That's the thing that is basically the last missing piece after you have decided what you want, when you want it, how you're going to get it, and all of that. Now you're willing to go get it, because guess what? Obstacles are going to come.
Absolutely.
You're going to be tried, because at the end of the day, you have to prove to yourself, how bad do you want it? How bad do you want this thing? How much does your heart desire for you to experience this or become this? How bad do you want it? And a lot of people are terrified of that. And just to touch back on what we were talking about earlier, a lot of the times people don't heal, grow, become all that. And I learned this, and this helped me a lot as a coach. I learned this very, very early on. As I'm, super humanitarian, want to heal the world, want to make world peace just, very fashionable, in the whole nine. Everybody's not going to do it.
Right.
And you got to be okay with the fact, as a coach, everybody doesn't want to do it. Everybody's not going to do it. Everybody doesn't see it for themselves, or maybe they're not intended to experience it in this life. Maybe they got to come back in another life and try it again. And that's what creates the ease, and not so much the urgency, because technically time doesn't exist. So it's like we're just going with the flow, and it's going to occur. But when they're ready, they're ready. And they're ready because they'll show up. They'll do the work.
They will.
They'll do what it takes to get there. They'll ask questions. They'll seek more. They'll come back to you telling you what they discovered on their own.
Yes. And that, oh my gosh, I love it when I watch that level of transformation happen, because that's when, and I know for me, that's when the client is just like snatching me up and is like, come on, let's go on this journey.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I'm along for this ride.
Yeah. I'm here for it. I live for it. I live
Yes.
for it. When you're showing me you're ready to leave the nest. And I tell my clients this all the time. I don't want to work with you forever. I want our relationship to be forever. I don't want to work with you forever. The goal is to get you to the point where you're ready to fly on your own. Yes. You literally have the courage and the stamina and the strength and the foresight to be able to go out here and say, I got this. Cool, great. I've done my job. Next.
Yep, exactly.
But that's the control factor that has to break down within a person. If you want to be in control so much, I go here with people, especially people who have a religious background. Who's in control? If you want to be in control so bad, where does that put the entity in which you literally pray to? Yeah. You're basically telling that individual or existence and being and thought and energy, I'm going to tell you what to do. Right. How dare you? Right. How dare you? Because at the end of the day, if you don't know how to surrender, if you don't know how to allow for divine timing to take place, the growth process is everything beautiful and everything ugly at the same time. Oh my gosh. It's the messages that you get in the middle. It's the lessons that you get along the way. It's the experiences, aha moments that you get to experience on this journey that make the journey. It is the journey. It's not the destination. It's the journey itself. Absolutely. It's getting there that creates this thing within us that makes our light shine even brighter. Look what kind of value I can look back on my life and say, I created that value. Yes. I created that value because you were willing to surrender to the plan that's already been put in place for you before you even took your first breath. It's a plan. And I have this thing, I think I might have told you about it, the discipline plus surrender. Yes. Yes. When you bring discipline, meaning you are coachable, meaning you can listen, meaning that you will go ahead and do exactly what your mentors, your teachers, your coaches are literally telling you. This is how we got here. This is what we did. You take this and you make it yours. You customize it, create that discipline, create that morning routine, create that regular routine, create that spiritual practice, create that workout regimen, create that discipline that's going to get you steps closer every single day to the person you desire to be, to the life you desire to live, to the experiences you want to have. When you get disciplined and mix that with surrender, it creates flow. You're now in your flow. You're now going with the flow. That currency is now you going with the current and you're not fighting against the waves. You just riding smooth. It's a smooth ride until it's not, right? But you're ready for the bumps. You're getting prepared for all of the obstacles because as you're going with the flow, your armor is building up around you. You're literally getting prepared for the next level at every level.
Yeah.
But you have to get through the level. And my acronym is for flow. It's faith. I love my acronym. Faith.
I love it too.
I love my little acronym. Faith. If you don't have faith in what you're doing, then why are you doing it?
Right.
If you don't believe you're going to get to where it is you desire to be, then why are you doing it? There should not be, as time goes by, a drop of doubt or inconsistency or worry or questioning your choices. Because that means you're not living intentionally. You're not saying, oh, I'm definitely going to do this. You're not commanding this to take place in your life. You're pretty much letting anything happen. Oh, okay. You're still going or allowing life to just happen instead of being the creator of your life. Like I said, God gives us a life. We have the duty to create it, build it, create the blueprint, structure it, and do whatever. We can even dismantle it whenever we want to and rebuild it. And that happens. So if you don't have faith in yourself that this is going to get done, it won't. And if you don't have that faith, that's a blocker that's in the way of the flow.
Yes, it is.
The L is for love. Everything should be at its base should be love. Everything should be love. You should love who you are. You should love the people that you surround yourself with. You should love the job you work or the business that you have. You should love the experiences you have. You should love how you look, your wardrobe, your kind of car. You should love everything. And if you don't love it, at least like it enough and know I'm getting ready to change it into something that I do love. But for now, I have gratitude that I have this.
Yeah.
I'm thankful because I could have nothing. And if you have nothing, be hopeful and look forward and get excited about that thing that you're inviting into your life. Don't look at it, I don't have, because the more lack, you're going to experience lack. It's an energetic frequency that people are unconsciously aware of, that they're sending out and wonder why they keep experiencing the same things over and over and over again, because you're not creating a shift within yourself.
Right.
And if you don't love where you are and what you have and what you're experiencing, you're only going to keep experiencing more of it, and it gives you more stuff to complain about. But when you say, you know what, I may not have a whole lot, but I love the stuff that I do have. I may not have a lot of friends, but the few friends that I do have, I love them because, man, they provide a lot of quality. They provide a lot of warmth, and they provide all the great things that I need from friends. There's endless things that you can love, but every aspect of your life, love should be at the base. And you said it before, because fear and love cannot reside in the same space. Can't have them both. The O can either be outlook or observation. What's your outlook on life? What do you see? What are you experiencing? What are you literally attracting through your mind, through your heart, through your spirit? What are you attracting into your life that you are seeing and creating decisions and thoughts based on that are giving you more of it? When you're in your flow, guess what? You start seeing the things that you really want to see. You start having experiences that you really want to have, and you're loving the life that you're living, even though it's not exactly perfect yet.
Right.
but you're finding that what you're seeing, experiencing, and doing, and your perspective, you like it.
Yes.
You like it a lot. This is right on point with where I'm going. I may not be there today, but I can tell I'm on my way.
Mhm.
I'm getting close. And W is will,
That will happen.
courage. Are you going to do it? Are you going to be committed? Are you going to be consistent? Are you going to execute? Are you willing to go through all of the challenges, all of the bumps, all of what do you call it, detours? Are you ready for that? Are you willing to go through that? Because there's a lot of people that are going to back up off of it. Oh no, that's too hard. Oh, that's an obstacle. Oh, I'm not going to, that's just a waste of time. No, it's not.
Mhm. Mhm.
No, it's not. Because if you feel like something in your life is a waste of time, you don't understand the concept of time, because there is no such thing as time. And you're going to look at that as lessons that turned into wisdom.
Right.
And that's where the value comes from. Whatever it was that occurred, you look at everything that negatively happened in your life, and you have gratitude for it,
Yes.
because it made you who you are in this moment. And hopefully that's a person who has gone through their healing and is on their path and continuously attracting abundance, great experiences, even when there's BS involved. You still
Absolutely.
know how to be that magnetic entity that's having such a great human experience.
Mhm.
Ooh,
So we could go on all night, but
forever.
let's see. We're right around 90 minutes, which I think is good for us. But before we leave, I do want to touch on some things, and then I just want to share, how you can work with either one of us. So Dawn alluded to my notes here. The whole thing of surrendering and allowing. And then she also talked about discipline. And I'll say this, when you work with either one of us, you're going to learn the discipline that it takes for you to get through each day. And that starts with your daily routine. So that is so important. I think that's a key factor, and it teaches you discipline. So, you're able to get off that hamster wheel, form a path, and keep going. But when we talk about like surrendering and allowing, because you can have that discipline, but then you have that surrendering and allowing, it's a whole balance that comes into place. And I want to talk about feminine energy quickly, because here on social media, depending on who you watch, you got someone telling you, oh, women need to be more feminine. You need feminine energy so you can find a man, so you can find a relationship, this, that, and the third. Well, let me go ahead and tell you, no, that's not what feminine energy is about. That's not why we need to focus on healing our feminine energy. Our feminine energy is a balance, it's part of the balance of our energy. There's feminine and there's masculine energy. And your gender has nothing to do with it, because both men and women possess both energies. Some possess more than the other, regardless of who has more. If you're a man with more feminine, if you're a woman with more masculine, that might be your natural makeup. It may not. You will not know until you actually take the time to do your inner healing work. But at the end of the day, we all need to focus on allowing our feminine energy to show up, because that is where allowing comes into place. That's where surrender comes into place. That's where allowing yourself to receive and to go with the flow. So if you find that you are that person who's connected to your timeline and things are going well and you're frustrated, overwhelmed, and you're stressed out, it's time for you to do some healing and tap into your feminine energy. And it's not to get that man. Yes, there are men who love when a woman can show up in her feminine energy. However, your goal is to balance your feminine energy for yourself and as part of your healing. So with that, feminine energy, you're surrendering, you're allowing, and then forming that discipline and creating that willpower. That's something you learn, whether it's through your own work or through hiring someone, through a therapist or a coach. And as Dawn alluded, not everyone is coachable. And, we can determine if you're coachable, if you are definitely interested in hiring a coach. And one thing I can say is, you're ready, you're tired. So the question I ask you, are you tired? When you say, yeah, I'm tired, you're more than likely coachable. You're ready to roll, you're ready to be accountable, you're ready to let go, you're ready to make that change. So, Dawn, tell everyone how they can work with you, how they can become someone who is affiliated with Evolve Life Mastery.
Well, first of all, my website is evolvelifemastery.com, or you can find it, the link in my bio on Facebook. How you can work with me is through a discovery call. That discovery call is going to let me know if you're ready to evolve, because we may think we are, but we might not be there just yet. If you're ready to evolve into the next version of you. And it'll also determine if I'm the right coach for you. And we can have that open conversation. We can have that determination, because it might be someone I know in our coaching circle who might be a better fit for you. But that takes place in a discovery call where we go through, some basic questions just to feel one another out, and to give me an idea as to how I can assist in your growth and your becoming and your development. Um, it's not an easy thing. We discussed how we've had people run. we've had our because they realize this is a lot more than that they bit off than they can chew.
Mhm.
And what you've bitten off is your destiny. Are you really ready to go after the life that you were intended to live, the life that you were meant to experience? And if you're willing to do the work, if you're willing to listen and are open to learn things that you may have never heard before, or you may have heard and disagree with, and so on, trust, we both have experienced that. But we coach you from our hearts, from our spirit, and from our higher selves. But yeah, you can find me on the website. You can book a free discovery call. It takes about 30 minutes to an hour. Sometimes they go longer because we talk. Um, and yeah, I'd be happy to serve whoever I'm in alignment with, whoever is seeking their truth and ready to really, really rock out this thing called life, man.
Yes.
Really, really ready.
Okay, so there you have it, Evolve Life Mastery with Coach Dawn. If you, as far as if you would like to work with me, I'm Paula Nicole Good across all platforms, including my website. Or you can always reach out to me in the DMs. And once again, same with Dawn, it starts out with a discovery call so we can figure out, what really is your issue and if I am the best coach. And what kind of sets me apart from Dawn is I really focus on those who have been through those toxic relationships, and you're dealing with that pain that stemmed from those relationships. So that's more my focus. And I primarily deal with women. I also work with men. I know Dawn works with both men and women. I primarily deal with women. I currently do have a group program that you can enroll in pretty much just about any time. However, once again, that starts with a discovery call. So you can reach out to me, Dawn, if you're not sure, reach out to one of us if you feel like, you can't figure out which way to go. And if it's neither one of us, like Dawn said, we have access to other coaches who could potentially help you with what you're dealing with, and we can steer you in the right direction. The other thing that we're doing, I'm just putting it out there in the universe. We've already put it out there. But I'm putting it out there for you all to hear. So in the future, 2023, we will be looking to do retreats. We will be retreat hosts. So if you know that you enjoy listening to Dawn and I chat, imagine what it would be like working with us. But I'm just putting that out there. We are in the talks. The plans are coming soon, but we hope that you enjoyed this. We will be doing more of these talks, and In the future, we will be hosting retreats so you can meet us face to face. And then there's going to be some times, Dawn's in Vegas right now, but when she comes to Atlanta, we're going to look at trying to do some in-person events, have some VIP days. So if you would like to join those, please reach out to either one of us so you can put your name down so we know who to reach out to first when we make that happen. But I want to thank you all for joining us. This was fun. I hope that you've learned how to get out of your own way. And if you're ready to let go and tell your ego to take several seats and start moving forward on your true journey of becoming your most authentic self and forming your identity and healing, and you know that you need someone to guide you so you can live that abundant life, so you can experience that dream life, so you can evolve and become your true self. We are here for you, and we're just a message away. So I want to wish you all lots of love, lots of peace, and many, many blessings. Have a good night.